Thank God for politicians, that legislate laws and uphold high standards that are beneficial to our society, as a whole. I mean, they wanted to take away our guns, but think about it. We'll still be safe as a people because, we still got the police to protect us. Right?
Your push to defund the police, the campaign records show that you spent roughly $70,000 on private security, and some critics say that move is hypocritical. What's your response to those critics?
They would rather I die? You would rather me die? Is that what you want to see? You want to see me die? Because that could be the alternative. So either I spent $70,000 on private security over the last few months, and I'm here standing now and able to speak, able to help save 11 million people. I have private security because my body is worth being on this planet right now. I have private security because the white supremacist, racist narrative that they drive into this country, the fact that they don't care that this black woman that has put her life on the line, they can't match my energy, first of all. This black woman who puts her life on the line, they don't care that I could be taken out of here. They actually probably are okay with that. Defunding the police and being able to have security because those same folks are causing it, it's two totally different things.
So basically, this is what it's all about. Their lives matter more than you and me. She conveniently, states that and feels confident and justified in saying that because she's a person with power or some level of power as a congresswoman, but yet she feels victimized. Now, like I said, as a congresswoman from Missouri by the name of Cori Bush, who on top of what she said in that video, just recently married the head of her security. A man who does not even have a security license. Yeah, he received over $600,000 in security services. And yet she wanted her constituents to defund the who? Yo, these politicians, man, they're beyond hypocrites. Now, we know that the whole defund the police protests and the phrase has pretty much died down the last year or so, especially leading up to the 2022 midterm elections. But every so often, when some type of, police misconduct happens, like the most recent one, being the beating that led to the death of Mr. Tyree Nichols, which was brutal, and I hope the officers involved in that murder do get that due punishment. But the media and politicians, they will constantly bring up police reform, that will eventually look to, defunding the police, and not defunding the police so much like in a monetary form, but defund them of their protections through what they call the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. The George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. Now, this particular bill does have some good merits. Don't get me wrong, it has some good merits in it, like, certain types of discriminatory profiling and, banning certain types of chokeholds. But one thing that's very detrimental is eliminating police officers' qualified immunity. And what that means is that an officer will basically be held liable for violating a person's Fourth Amendment right, for any type of illegal seizures and any type of arrests and searches. While at the same breath, an alternative to that could be at least be discussed, and that's decertification. Why won't the politicians talk about this?
Democrats in particular emphasize that reducing qualified immunity, making it easier to fire bad cops, needs to be in legislation. Are you open to that?
Well, there are two ways that you could deal with that. From the Republican perspective, and the president has sent the signal that qualified immunity is off the table. They see that as a poison pill. On our side, we could use the decertification of officer, except for the law enforcement unions say that's a poison pill. So we're going to have to find a path that helps us reduce misconduct within the officers. But at the same time, we know that any poison pill in legislation means we get nothing done. That sends a wrong signal.
So to be clear, you personally would be open to reducing immunity but not removing it completely?
No, I think there's a way for us to deal with it. Decertification would be a path that I would be interested in looking at. That is a path that has got a roadblock because I don't have the votes on the other side to make that into law. If we do it right, I think we can reduce the number of times that we're dealing with misconduct on the police departments. If we don't do it right, then we'll have the same situation where there is no law. We can do better than that as a nation, and we will.
Now, that was South Carolina Senator Tim Scott, who discussed the decertification of a police officer where, in that case, their license is revoked due to any type of misconduct, as opposed to removing qualified immunity. I mean, like I said, decertification, that's a viable alternative, because by removing the qualified immunity totally, then, like I said earlier, an officer basically is open up to a litany of potential lawsuits. Lawsuits from people they have attempted to arrest, or lawsuits from people that have already arrested. And this will make cops more vulnerable and apprehensive when interacting with a potential suspect. Therefore giving more advantages to a person, that they engage with, which could lead to more criminals getting away, and possibly more officers, basically just want to quit the profession or not even join. Now, I'm in no means trying to protect bad police officers, like Derek Chauvin over there in Minneapolis and others like him. And qualified immunity doesn't even protect them either, as criminal charges can be applied to police officers who clearly violate the law. I'm more in favor of maintaining a level of protection for good police officers that will, in return, protect the public at large. Now, the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, it did pass the House of Representatives, I believe, in 2021, but it did not pass the Senate. As mentioned by Tim Scott, they had made a counteroffer, him and other Republicans, which was removing the elimination of qualified immunity and also no-knock warrants, which was a hot topic at the time due to the whole, Breonna Taylor situation. And if you recall, the Breonna Taylor situation was where police in Louisville, Kentucky had executed a no-knock warrant and addressed that it was linked to a known drug dealer in the area. And, after busting down the door into the apartment, they were fired at, and rightfully so, they returned fire back. And unfortunately, it hit and killed Breonna Taylor. And that's the thing with the media. The way the media manipulates a story like this, like the Breonna Taylor, to make her such a sympathetic figure, just so that these lawmakers can push, to remove no-knock warrants. It's sickening. I mean, she is a sympathetic figure because she passed away. It's unfortunate, but they use it for something that can be used against us black folks. They twist the story, and we end up advocating and voting against our own best interest. I mean, it's sick, but unfortunately, it's smart by them. We fall for it all the time. Now, I say if you're going to remove qualified immunity from the cops, then in that case, you also should remove it from state and federal government officials. Otherwise, this seems as if you're just throwing the cops underneath the bus. But we know these politicians and these judges, they won't have that qualified immunity removed. Nah, they won't do it. And that's what I despise with some of these politicians. It's the duplicity of their rhetoric to engage people to advocate in the wrong direction. So think about it. The police officers who enforce the policy are not given qualified immunity, but the politicians and government officials who legislate and adjudicate these same policies are protected. Let that sink in. It's like the whole Second Amendment situation. How are you going to advocate to take away the guns from law-abiding citizens like myself and yourself, but yet you politicians are still armed, have armed security protecting you? You don't see the double standard here? So finally, to the people who will say, oh, Lloyd, what if the cops have qualified immunity, then they can just beat me up and false arrest me and get away with it. Really?
That's just not true at all. The police have never had the authority to beat me upside my head and then take me to court for it. You just don't know how to sue the police and have never been shown, so I'm going to help you out. 18 U.S. Code 242. Whoever under any color of law, which is statutes, ordinances, and regulations, causes me deprivation of rights, let me show you the penalty. If it's because of race, 1 year. If they touch me at all, 10 years in prison. If they attempt to kidnap me, which is taking me to jail without a warrant, that's life in prison, and I will get him for it. Every public official has a bond that ensures that they follow federal regulations and indemnifies those who were injured as a result of the officer's negligence. If you put in a claim against their bond, which for county employees you get from the Secretary of State and for city employees you can get from the Risk Management Department, and you file a claim against their bond, not only will you use up all the insurance money, they will never work as a police officer or a judge or whoever bond you're going after again. They'll never show you that on TV, but that's the proper way to sue the police. They ain't gonna assault you and get away with it.
There you go. Like you said, and it's true when you do a bit of research, but of course, they won't mention this on your local or national, media, because then it goes against their narrative. So from defunding the police, or as politicians nowadays like to say, reallocating resources from the police, basically the same thing. As that comes into play, additional reforms to our criminal justice system is going to continue to happen. And the next one, of course, is bail reform, where some cities are looking to remove or even lower cash bail when someone's arrested. And in my opinion, basically that removes accountability from a lot of these criminals. I mean, having no cash bail requirement, it could lead to a higher propensity of repeat criminal activity, especially when it comes to public drug use, which has skyrocketed with the infiltration of fentanyl in our American society. I mean, how do you even get here with this whole fentanyl crisis? I mean, and could it have been avoided? I try to figure it out here.